Alex, welcome to the program. Big question, is multilateralism dead?
I don't think so. I really do not hope so. Of course, we are in the middle of a war. The problem is that there are indeed different opinions on who started the war, what the implications are, and the problem is, of course, is that the country that has not really condemned Russia's invasion of Iraq is hosting the G20 summit. So it's a very difficult situation India is, finding itself in. But I think multilateralism is not dead. The very fact that they're meeting in India for the G20 meeting means that multilateralism is not dead. It's still going on, although there are, of course, as you indicated, a lot of problems.
Yeah, but there's too much empty rhetoric. Surely the German foreign minister has just said directly to Sergei Lavrov, Mr. Lavrov, please, will you bring your country back into the START nuclear treaty? I can't imagine what his response was. But in terms of being able to influence collectively what's happening in the world, you're quite right. India has not directly condemned the Russian attack on Ukraine. So where does that leave the whole meeting?
Well, as you said, the meeting is it's very difficult. It's what can I say? It's an attempt to at least try to talk some sense into Russia. It's of course it's going to be, as we know, it's going to be a futile attempt. But what else can you do? I mean, what else can you do? You try. The international community who finds itself on the right side of the argument, meaning that there's a very clear near consensus among the countries, sorry to say so, with half a brain, that Russia attacked Ukraine and not the other way around. And there we are. It's what do you want to do? It's better to talk to each other, if you will, than only talking about each other, because there's already a lot of talking about each other going on.
Alex, I'm not sure where we are with how to produce more effective diplomacy. In terms of how to affect what's happening in Ukraine, with China and India both sitting on the fence, is it in any way realistic to expect those two huge, influential Asian nations to say to Moscow, we will not support you economically or militarily or diplomatically? And I say that because of the possible ramifications of what's happening in Ukraine. Both sides are saying we're moving closer to disaster.
No, absolutely, you're right. I mean, there's no chance whatsoever, in China, coming from China saying, look, we will put pressure onto you to make sure that you withdraw your military.
Why aren't they doing that? That's the question. Why?
Because in the case of China, of course feels very aligned with Russia in its opposition against the West. It has made this very clear also through the publication of its 12 points plan. India, of course, as we know, is depending heavily on Russia for arms and weapons technology. So, if you look at India's armed forces, up to 80% of India's armed forces depend on Russian arms and weapons. And of course, India has been buying, like China has bought over the recent years, Russian gas and oil at discount prices. There's, of course, there's an economic reasoning there as well. But the chances of China putting anything resembling pressure onto Russia, of course, and I agree with you, are zero. Right? But again, it's what can I say? It's they're at least trying to pretend that there's something to talk about at the G20 meeting. But of course, there will be no result, at least as far as additional or any sort of pressure coming from Russia, coming from China and India.
So the analysis has been that what's happening in Ukraine is reshaping the post-Cold War security structure, especially of Europe. Do you see any longer-term ramifications of those two countries, again, India and China, not fully backing the Western nations who are completely in favor of Ukraine and completely against Russia? In terms of, you imagine 10 years down the line in NATO's relationship with China and also with India, do you see this having some sort of longer-term effect because of a lack of trust that this has been building?
Well, first of all, let's go back to the basics. What happened? Russia invaded Ukraine, invaded European country. Okay, and this, of course, does have consequences and repercussions for European security. And of course, Europe, together with the US, is defending itself by helping Ukraine to defend itself. Whether China and India will get on board is yet another question. Maybe the good news is that as far as India is concerned, with all due respect to India, India is such a unimportant actor in international politics and security. And let's put it this way: it's not important enough to cause enough damage to Western coalition, defending Ukraine. For China, it's a different issue. But again, I think it has become very, very clear that China is, as from a European and American perspective, China is not engageable politically. The 12-point statement has made this very clear. China called this a peace plan. It's nothing. It's nothing like this. It's a statement. It's a China's position paper. So of course there will be repercussions, but I think Europe and with the help of the US will be perfectly able to defend its security and its security interests with or without China.
Axel Berkofsky. Axel, thank you so much indeed. Really appreciate the analysis.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.